Thanks, Chris. It's great to be here. Yeah, it's Chris asked me those two questions earlier about sort of what are the two games, an indoor game and an outdoor game that you liked playing as a kid. And golf was interesting. I was struggling for the outdoor game because I'm, like probably a lot of gamers today, sort of not really the jock kind. And we used to do, as a teenager, I played golf. And one of the things that I sort of take away from playing golf was that it's fine to give something like that a good chance and work at it for a while. But then when you suck at it, you really realize it's time to quit and stop doing it. So I don't play golf anymore because it's kind of boring. But sorry to all you golfers out there. And then for the indoor games, I also used to think the Avalon Hill board games were like cool. My brother and I used to play, and we played sort of every variant of war game that they made back in those days. And the awesome way that the board games were actually had the weird hex grids and the little metal pieces and all that other cool stuff. It all seemed really great to me. And now I realize it's geeky. And now they're part of Wizards of the Coast. So that's how life goes sometimes. All right, so it doesn't seem like very long ago that I first met Chris, actually. We had breakfast about 6 years ago at a pancake house on the east side, within a month of me starting at PopCap. It seems like it was only yesterday, but now the casual, that was I think the first year that Jessica had Casual Connect, which was called, I think it was Casuality back then, which she has wisely renamed. Everyone thought that was either casualty or causality, but either way it was bad. But here we are back 6 years later for another conference, and it's pretty exciting for me. As Chris mentioned, we sort of had some big news at PopCap about a week ago. It's hard to believe it's only a week ago. And my marketing department has a decidedly unsanctioned video that I'm going to play for you if you guys can make sure that the audio is up in the back.
Didn't see that one coming.
All right, thank you for the quick turn on the video thing. All right, so a lot of you know, a lot of the PopCap founders, John, Brian, and Jason have been around for a while. John, every year when we talk about doing a Casual Connect speech, he always tries to talk me out of it. And he's usually, he says, it's too much work, it's just like all this stuff, you're all going to be too busy, you're going to regret it. This year, I regretted it. We had a lot going on the last couple months, but here I am anyway. So, as you know, how many of you ever bought or sold a company? Raise your hands. Okay, so they have this thing when you do these big old contracts, when you buy or sell a company, including PopCap, where you have these covenants, this long list of things that you are allowed to do and not allowed to do between the time you sign the deal and the time you close the deal, which is about a month. And that's where we are right now. We're in the middle of that sort of sign and close time. So I have this list of things, and this list of things is 6 pages long, okay, of things I can't do between sign and close. And I have armies of lawyers who are looking at all this, make sure I do all the right things. And so 6 pages seems like a lot until you realize that the agreement was like 130 pages or something like that, so it's not that much of it, but it's a lot. So what I decided to do is to sort of run everything by the various lawyers. And oh yeah, that's right, EA. Not really, not yet. So here's the redacted version. Just kidding. All right, so now you're going to indulge me for a few moments. I'm a bike rider, and for those of you who follow cycling at all, and I promise you this will be my last sports analogy for the day, my only sports analogy probably. So the Tour de France is going on right now. It is arguably the hardest individual athletic competition in the world, right? It's 3 weeks of riding. It's brutal. It's 21 stages of the race. 16 of those stages have already been run so far, but each year they change the course around, so it's not the same every year. And they always have a few days in both the Alps and the Pyrenees. So last weekend they just finished coming out of the Pyrenees, which is the first half of the mountain stages. And so you have to indulge me for a few more slides here where I show you some profiles of bike trips. So this is the profile of last Thursday's trip, which was the first day in the Pyrenees. And over on the right, you see those little HC climbs. Those are above category climbs. Those are like the hardest possible ones. They're above category. They're impossible to rate. So on the first day in the Pyrenees, they had two. They went up Tourmalet, and they ended at Luzardiden. The day after that, they had to climb the Col d'Aubisque, another mammoth climb, as you can see from that chart. And the day after that, they ended at Plateau de Bay after doing a pair of Category 1s and Category 2s. So it was a crazy, crazy 3 days of climbing in the Pyrenees. And what's weird about this is it was brutal, it was a hard race, and I'm going to get some relevance to this in a minute, I promise. Maybe. And for me, doing the deal with EA is sort of like feeling like the Tour de France this year. I feel like we're in the middle of, we sort of are in that flat stage between the Pyrenees and the Alps, and the hard part of the race is still done. This race is going to be won or lost starting at the end of this week in the Alps. Here's the first Alp stage that goes Thursday. You see they've got three above category climbs on the first day. And then really the race will be won, everybody believes. You know, the contenders are now within a few minutes of each other. On the very last Alpine stage, where they're going to be climbing Galibier, and again, second time in 2 days, a different route, as well as probably one of the most famous climbs on the tour, the Alpe d'Huez. So it feels like this whole part of this thing about doing a deal, I feel like I've got, the big climbing is still ahead, so we've got a lot to do. A lot of my friends and colleagues have reached out to congratulate me, but we have a lot of work to do, both closing the deal, but actually as being part of EA, and we're really excited about that. So, all right, enough about the bike analogies. I promise I'm done with that. 10 things I hate about casual games. So when I thought about doing this speech a few months ago, not knowing I would be in the midst of doing a deal with Electronic Arts, I tried to think about all of my 6 years in this industry, which feel a lot like an old timer now. I mean, it's the casual game industry we like to think of as maybe 10 years old, but at least PopCap is 10 years old or 11 years old, so we sort of, I frequently don't think of myself as an old timer, but 6 years into it, I guess I am. I like to say I was taller and thinner and had lots of hair when I started, but you guys can laugh every once in a while. It's going to be a tough audience. So anyway, I figure nothing starts a day or a conference like a good rant, and I'm going to try and piss everybody off in the room if I can. So I'll try and, I'm not going to distinguish between who I'll make angry. Okay, the first thing I hate is gamification or gamification. I'm not even sure how you pronounce it. So really, all you conference organizers who think there is another way to milk corporate money into your pockets by teaching people that everything is a game, please stop. I'm so tired of it. Gamification is something who's, yeah. It's like, okay, really? I mean, is everything a game? Is everyone a game designer? If only you show up at this handy-dandy conference, we can teach you how to be an engagement expert. We can teach you everything you know to make your game and your project or whatever it is more successful. So I am really tired of gamification. I'll be glad when they retire this term. Hopefully it's run its course. So sorry for all you gamification experts out there, but tired of it. Second thing I hate, and I know there's a lot of you in the audience, at least a couple of you backstage even, portals. I'll stand up here and finally say it. I am sick to death of the portals, the download portals that did make this casual game space that we all know and love so great. It's driving me crazy. And I'm sure my business guys will have to clean up after me after I'm done with this. But the problem is that you guys have created this business, the $20 download, try and buy business. And I cannot for the life of me understand how you believe that a long-term sustaining distribution business can charge developers 60 or 70%. It's insane. It is. It's like, I've been predicting for years that this would end, that Ron's like, oh, please stop. No, I've been predicting for years that this would end and some rational sort of thought would hit this space. And it continues to mystify me. Even when Facebook and Apple and Microsoft and XBLA and others continue to sort of expand the game market and eat the lunch of the portals, they still continue to differentiate based on price. They use the high royalties to buy customers from each other to no one's benefit, and the overall download gaming space ended up being pretty stagnant for the last few years. Meanwhile, I've got hundreds of millions of new customers on Facebook, tens of millions of new customers on the iPhone, and that's where all the business is. And so really it's time for the portals to sort of figure out how to add value in a business without just sort of milking us for giant revenues. It continues to mystify me how Walmart, when I sell a copy of Bejeweled in Walmart, I actually make more money than when I sell a copy of it on Yahoo. how does that make any sense? They actually have a building and greeters and cashiers and boxes and all sorts of stuff, and yet I still make more money when I sell a copy of Bejeweled there than when I do on the portals. So it's kind of crazy, and it's one of those things where it's mystified me for years how this has continued to go. Third thing, and this is now aiming at all the developers out here, what is it with our space that seems to attract people who just think everything is easy and there's this big pot of gold at the end of every rainbow? For the last 6 years, I've watched all sorts of what I will call fads, where people came rushing in thinking that everything was easy money. Well, truth is, it isn't. I love that art. For every, Doodle Jump or Angry Birds or, a successful game that we've all seen that looks like, or Farmville, looks like a money factory from the outside, there are 10,000 failures. So life is not nearly as easy as it always looks. If you have a success, you should be trying to create more and more success on it, not just milking it for all you can get. You should actually be trying to build more, to do more for your customers, to do more for your company. I think I remember the Rovio guys have said that Angry Birds was their 52nd game, not their first. So just think about that. This is not an industry where we're just going to simply print money, and yet, more than any other business I've ever worked in, it seems to attract people who think it's always going to be easy. And those of you who've been in the space for a while know it's not. This is somewhat related, and it's the commoditization of games. And this one sort of hits both the developers and the publishers, because I think we're all guilty of screwing this one up to a certain extent. When you release a game every single day, good games get lost in a sea of garbage. We are supposed to make games that make people feel good. We're supposed to make games that make people feel like winners. But in this commodity games business, every consumer is a loser, and we all lose too. So we've got to really figure out how we stop doing this. We really have to figure out how to stop making shovelware. Seems like we would have learned our lesson with the fart apps on the iPhone a few years ago, but continually I'm amazed when we sort of support this, either on the selling or the game creation side. One word for distributors: curation. Decide what you should sell. And one word for developers: quality. Make games people like. Just because you can sell an app on the App Store for 99 cents doesn't really mean you should. So we really are all guilty of cluttering up and commoditizing our product, and it really cheapens the whole industry. This is the one that has emerged most recently when people talk about the evil social games. And we even had to confront this internally at PopCap, of course, because we started out as a traditional casual game publisher and have moved headlong into the social space. And it's really hard for people who think about, try to sort of analyze the social gaming business from the outside. People sort of look at it as simply manufacturing money, and it's not that, or it shouldn't be that. But when monetizers take over for the game designers, we've really got a problem. You know the type. It's the games that trick people into spamming their friends. It's the games that make short-term money more important than the long-term game experience. It's games where spending rockets you up to the top of the leaderboards, but where's the fun? Where's the fun in any of that? So really, these games make you feel like a beggar. We don't need that. And this isn't about all Facebook games, so I actually don't mean to sort of paint this brush. I think a lot of the more successful games don't do that, but it's what I'll call the secondary and tertiary ones that sort of look at this as a free money thing, where the friendship guilt trip tricks you into using it. My kingdom for an avocado, and filling my feed forms up with inane requests for things that I just don't care about. And so Facebook has obviously taken actions to stop some of that, but we owe some responsibility to ourselves and the industry for stopping that. And look, we love social games, but we don't start in the dark underbelly. We like to think that there's a great game at the heart of what you're doing, and we don't want to ruin the environment for everybody. And that's one of the risks we have in the social gaming space right now, is that we will. So it's not a money machine, it's a game machine. This one's been plaguing me for years, and it's this notion that somehow, because casual games are simple, they are really easy to make. And it's amazing to me. This actually happens with a lot of industries where people think that, people don't realize that, and maybe this is because I just turned 50 and so I'm old now and I sort of am wiser about such things, but making simple products is way more difficult than making complicated products. And our industry gets characterized as simple puzzle games or easy games, and it really, I think, sells short the amount of real hard work that goes into making a great game. When people on the outside think they can join, they can just throw something together and it's suddenly going to win. Well, it doesn't, and that's very important. I think that we sort of think about the context of simple is actually more complicated, simple is more elegant, and simple is harder. So clones are, this is a loaded topic, no matter how you look at it. And I'm going to stay out of the religious wars of what people talk about with cloning of games, but sort of get at the sort of the far edge of what I'm thinking about. What I don't get is people who look at the top charts and literally just try to copy whatever's number 1, 2, or 3. It's fine to be inspired by games. Every game is inspired by something else, just like all literature is inspired by something else. But really, do you think you can out Farmville Zinga? What's the point? That doesn't work. Those guys are printing money. They're doing a great job running Farmville. You think you can do it better? Angry Birds is an unstoppable franchise. You're not going to out Rovio. You have to sort of make your own way in this thing. It's funny because in all the years that people have been doing this, we see these things come and go, and they never work. And so it's like, at some point, like I said, inspiration is one thing, and there is this long, wide gray area of inspiration to full-on cloning, but cloning just really isn't a great business. I'm not sure why people think it is. So it's a blight on our industry that drives me crazy. I think I saw Dean Takahashi in the audience, and hi, Dean. Dean is famous. John Vici and I had an interview with Dean a few years ago where John talked about stupid venture money, and I think every time Dean interviews John now, he mentions the stupid venture money quote, and so I'll give it to him again for fodder for the rest of my life, probably. So I've talked to a lot of investors over the last 6 years, and a lot of people seem to look at our business as if it's a manufacturing business. Like we make widgets. It costs you X thousand dollars to make widgets. Can't you just make more of them? Can't you just make them faster? Can't you just make them cheaper? That's not what we do. And inevitably, when I was talking to investors early on, I found that I could separate those who got that idea from those who didn't pretty quickly. If I couldn't convince people in about 10 minutes that we don't make widgets, that we actually make games, and it's content, and it's very creative driven, it's not the same thing that you might be used to, I'd usually sort of politely end the meeting and move on. But we've seen there's still a lot of what I would call stupid money, and stupid money has a problem in that it actually can just disrupt the entire ecosystem. It can put good money. It can put money into the ecosystem that sort of makes it harder for companies that are doing great jobs, making great games, to actually do what they want to do. So this is a problem that I've seen in the industry before. I've seen it in other industries in my life, and it fortunately hasn't really invaded the casual space as much as I was worried that it will, but it still bugs the crap out of me. Middleware. This is kind of related to the stupid venture money. And over the years, we've all watched this. There are ebbs and flows of how much middleware sort of becomes part of the ecosystem here. But usually, I think this is related to the stupid venture money because usually the stupid venture money funds the stupid middleware companies. So to me, it's things like anytime I hear it's one button and you can now have instant iPhone and iPad and social apps. That doesn't work. Never has, never will. We always hear about it. There's always another one. And I'm not trying to say that all tools we use are useless. We all buy lots of great tools from lots of great companies. But the snake oil sales of things that will change your boring ass PC game into a dynamic, money-producing Facebook game are just kind of crazy. And so we all have to sort of, I continue to be amazed at how many of these middleware companies sort of come and go. And we've certainly seen a lot of them over the years. And my number 10 on the list is independent game companies that sell out to big corporate overlords. And if there's anyone from EA or any lawyers in the audience, I'm kidding. That's not really true. I love EA. I'm going to work there for a long time now. So, no, it's it's been a fun ride for PopCap, and so it's kind of fun to end with making fun of ourselves a little bit, but this is a joke. I really do like EA. We're really excited about what we're going to do with them. So I do want to close, before I take some questions, on one thing I do like about this business, though. And I've tried to be cranky, but I'm not necessarily the best cranky person in the world, so it's easier for me to actually like the industry that I participate in every day. But we have what I believe is we sell fun for a living. And how awesome is that? I mean, how many times do you actually get to sort of have small teams of people that entertain millions and millions of people who love your games? When I walk around, when I get on an airplane wearing a PopCap t-shirt or a PopCap baseball cap, and somebody stops me in the aisle and tells me how much they love Plants vs. Zombies or Bejeweled, or how much their kid interacts with them on a regular social basis over a game, it's exciting and it's really, really fulfilling. I can't imagine ever in my life that I'll have a job more fun than running a game company. And especially running a game company where it feels like we can make products relatively quickly that have relatively huge impacts on people. And this is an industry that is fun, and we lose sight of that a lot. We get sort of cranky, including myself. We realize that the fun sometimes gets missed, and that is the one thing I do love about this business. And I've loved it for 6 years, and I will love it for another decade probably at the rate I'm going. But it's a pretty awesome business. So that is the end of my formal slides, and I know we do have time. I tried to make it quick and see if we have time for questions. And the silence is daunting. I'm happy to let you guys go. Hey, Dean. My 10th point was really just a joke. It was nothing more than a joke. So no, I was saying independent game companies that get bought by big corporate overlords. No, it was simply a little poking fun of myself. I was actually my marketing guys had that going first, and I moved it to last. It seemed like I lost its punch by putting it last, but I'll trust them from now on. Questions? Oh, there's one way in the back. Yeah. So it's a good question. Contextualize a little bit the Zynga IPO, and I think hidden in there, maybe not quite so hidden, was this idea that maybe Zynga's a bad company and we're a good company. And I'd shy away from that a little bit. Zynga's a different kind of a company than we are. We're about the game first, and I'm not sure that's where Zynga would say they have been over the last few years. It may be where they think they're going to go. And yet they'll probably IPO at a valuation 10 or 20 times what we just exited with EA. So a couple of things I'd say. One is we don't feel like we exited with EA. We feel very much like it's another chapter, and we're very excited about sort of it going forward, not it as an end point. But the second thing is, when we looked at the IPO, I talked to a lot of bankers over the last few months, and it's the start of a marathon. So when the day you go public, you've sold a small percentage of your shares to the public market and established a value that you then have to grow into. And Zynga's going to have to grow into a pretty hefty value, not unlike LinkedIn has to do. I got quoted in the Wall Street Journal last week, and someone asked me about this yesterday, saying that I wouldn't want to be the CEO of LinkedIn right now because they have to grow into their valuation. I think they're trading on a multiple, or they were before yesterday. I think they tumbled a little bit yesterday, but they were trading on a multiple of their 2014 earnings. So when you're running a company that's trading on 2014 earnings, it's really hard not to screw it up. It's easy. Almost anything you do can make that fail. So frothy valuations at an IPO don't necessarily equate with success for the companies over the long term. Now, let's look at Zynga in 3, 4, 5 years and see how they're doing, and they may create a very good long-term company. But I don't think you can read into the frothy IPO market as a gauge for how the market will look, 3, 4, 5 years from now. And I think that's the real important metric ultimately. So I'm okay with it. We did fine with the deal with EA. We're pretty excited about it, and we're excited to keep making games and doing things we love, and that's what we're going to do. That's it? No.
Any advice for game companies that would aspire to be PopCap games in 6 years starting out that you could give, and also any favorites for the tour?
Favorites for the tour is hard. I'm kind of looking for Schleck to win this year, I think, but anyone but Contador. And then the question was advice for aspiring game companies. Look, I've said this for almost every speech I've ever done at Casual Connect. I say the same kind of thing. It's kind of boring. But it's focus on game quality. Make sure that you make awesome games. And that's not the only way to do it. There's lots of ways to run a great business. But I've always believed that if you make amazing products that your customers love, you will ultimately figure it out. And I've had lots of people that come to me and say, well, that's really hard. And yep, it's true, it's really hard. But we've always believed at PopCap that if you always start and end with really great games, everything else figures itself out. And we sometimes miss some of the big giant gold rush opportunities, but we get there eventually, and we find that if the games are great, we can make them succeed in those places. And that's kind of how we look at it. And look, there be light. Yeah, in the back. I have a new boss. What's the first thing to go at PopCap? Probably nothing. It is the first time I've had a boss in like 15 years, I think. So I'm not sure he's quite ready for me yet. But we set up a deal where we get to run pretty independently, and our choice is when and how to integrate into EA, and that was an important part of the deal for us. So we don't have to do anything on the first day. We get to choose how we want to do that because everybody's kind of aligned in how that's going to work, and EA really wants us to get the full earnout, which is part of our deal, and we of course really want to get the full earnout, which is part of our deal, and so that's if that can work, we get to sort of decide how that goes. So I hope nothing. We always say that, and PopCap is, in the 6 years I've been there, PopCap changes a lot every year, even on its own. So we'll continue to change as part of EA, but I don't think we're going to just axe things. I hope we just do some things bigger and better. The question was about the middleware thing. Yeah, I'm a giant middleware skeptic, and maybe it exists. Maybe somebody's got something out there that'll really do all those, one-click, turn the crank and out comes a beautifully tuned iPhone game that runs, or an Android game that runs on every handset with every carrier in every language. But I'm skeptical, and I've seen a bunch that try, and we've even, tried a few times ourselves to do those things, and they always seem to bump up against some technical hurdles that sort of are at odds with making a great game. Unity's a little bit of a different thing, but it's not quite, that's much more of a, sort of outside of my realm of expertise. We're actually doing some stuff in Unity on one of our projects, but I don't see that as a push button. It's all done, so is it all done kind of a snake oil that I'm referring to, but yeah. What platform should developers focus on? If I knew the answer to that, we would have probably sold for 20 billion. No, what we figure is that we go where there's two ways to look at platforms, right? Some people who are going to be there first are always going to, the first movers can do a really great job. If you can predict what's going to be the next hot thing, the next new iPhone, you can be in front of that and maybe make a lot of money and do great and get your games out there and all that. We've always been a little bit of the opposite, which is we kind of go where gamers go. And so we're very seldom on the bleeding edge. Occasionally we are. We were one of the first guys on the scroll wheel iPod, God forbid. We've been a few times doing that, but it's a lot harder, and it takes a lot more risk. So for us, it's much more important for us to sort of have the care and concern of optimizing for whatever platform it is, because what we believe is that whether it's an iPhone or Facebook or a PC, when someone plays our games on those platforms, that may be the first time they're ever playing a game at all, but certainly a PopCap game. And we have to be prepared for that to be their first and only gaming experience. If it's not great, we know we're going to lose them. So we try, actually, we don't like the word port. We really try to adapt our games for every platform and really think about the controls and the memory constraints and every other sort of piece of the puzzle and try to make sure that the games are great. We don't always succeed, but we really try. That's kind of what we do. So I don't have a silver bullet on that other than it's just a lot of hard work. I'm not really big on silver bullets. So surprises over the last 6 years, every freaking week it seems like I'm surprised by something. Facebook surprised me, iPhone surprised me in a good way. So yeah, there's always something that surprises me in this, and I don't know what the next one will be. The only thing I can tell you for sure when I look sort of at 6 years from now is I'm pretty sure there will be another awesome gaming platform, and I have no idea what it is. And it's will it be the Wii U or the one after that, or will it be something completely different? I think Facebook and iPhone or iOS sort of came on us, a lot of us, by surprise, and PopCap's done really well on both those platforms. We really like them, but nobody's business plan 4 years ago had iOS and Facebook as major components, and everybody's business plan has those today. So 4 years from now, who the hell knows? I think challenge over the next 3 years is a lot of people talk about being part of the social business. Running games as a service is a new way of thinking, right? We used to ship games and forget about them and just make another one, and so talking about games as a service is pretty simple. It's like, yeah, we just have to run games as a service. It's just that it's really hard. Doing that across multiple platforms is almost exponentially hard. So Bejeweled is arguably a pretty simple game, but keeping Bejeweled Blitz in sync across iPhone and Facebook and a PC client all require a lot more work, I think, than any of us thought. It's fun, it's challenging. We're learning new things about how to interact with customers and all that, but it's certainly a big problem, or a big challenge we all face in this industry, is how to make great games that actually cross platforms really effectively. Because we've been hearing about this for a while. I remember Bill Gates actually sat up at Comdex 5 years ago and showed Zuma on his mobile phone, and then started a game on his PC and then picked it up on his mobile phone in what was just a complete sort of technology demo that never went anywhere, but as if you could sort of start playing on one platform and finish on another. And that was a kind of a pipe dream back then, but we're starting to actually see it as real today. So it's funny that thing that seemed so completely irrational back then is actually happening now. Nobody? I'll let you guys go. Thanks.